my channel, The Mental Traveler. I'm Caro Herrera, and today I'm going to be reviewing a book called The Jane Austen Society. It was published in May 2020, and it was written by Natalie Jenner. Before I begin though, let me just say that this will be a spoiler-free video, so you can sit back and enjoy. Okay, so the characters and events portrayed in this book are fictional, but the settings are real enough. The story begins in the 1930s, but really takes place in 1945 and 46, right after the end of World War II, in the village of Chawton, the last place where Jane Austen lived before her death. In the Jane Austen Society, we get to meet several people who live in Chawton, or who moved to this place, and what really unites them is that they all love Jane Austen. Some of the characters are a Hollywood movie star, a doctor, a school teacher, a lawyer, a farmer, and so we get to see what their lives are like. We follow them as they struggle to find happiness, and we see how Jane Austen's works help them enjoy life more and overcome different struggles. At one point, though, they decide to create the Jane Austen Society so that they can preserve the author's belongings and create a museum for tourists to visit. Will they be able to do this? That's for you to find out. I give the Jane Austen Society a 3 out of 5 stars review because I didn't really enjoy it. I really wanted to, but I got bored. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's a beautiful labor of love from the author to Jane Austen and to Jane Austen followers. But I just found the storylines to be very predictable. There was nothing really challenging about this story. Sure, the author was not trying to give us this epic saga, but more like a comfort reading, I think. But I just didn't buy many things. For example, while people may have used the word okay back in the 40s, whenever a character said it, it really annoyed me because it took me right out of the book into modern times to think, did they really use that word? I just don't associate okay with the 40s. And then there's like this movie star who's in her 30s, and she's just way too naive to be believable. She behaves like this shy virginal bride, and okay, the author wanted to write her that way, but her life just seemed too unbelievable for her. Knowing as much as I do about Hollywood during the 30s and 40s, women didn't really stay saints whether they wanted to or not in that industry. Also, there was one plot twist I wasn't expecting, I didn't like, and I just feel like the author did it so that modern audiences wouldn't criticize her. I mean, I guess that I enjoyed the banter between a school teacher and a doctor, and the literary conversations, because I could identify with the characters whenever they were discussing Austen's works. I've been there. I love discussing fictional characters with other people. And also, I did learn a bit more about Jane Austen, and the author did a great research job, but I wish she would have mentioned Sense and Sensibility and Northanger Abbey more. She was always thinking about Emma and Pride and Prejudice and Mansfield Park. Finally, I believe that a lot of people will love the Jane Austen Society, particularly Austen hardcore fans. So I don't want to discourage you from reading it. I really wish I had loved it more, but unfortunately I didn't. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved history and watching period dramas, so I think my introduction to Jane Austen must have been with either the adaptations of Sense and Sensibility or Emma, or maybe even because I loved watching Clueless since I was a kid. But I think that the first time I became aware of her and of her books was thanks to the 2005 movie Pride and Prejudice. Ever since that, I've loved her works as well, and because I've been a bibliophile since I've been 14, I read most of her works during my teenage years, and I love English classics, and I think that these are like sort of the introduction novels you tend to read when you're exploring this literary genre. So yeah, I really love Sense and Sensibility. That's my favorite book and movie. That's my favorite storyline by her, followed by Pride and Prejudice, Emma, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. I don't really care for her other works because while I do love Jane Austen, she's not my favorite English author. I prefer other English classics before hers. So what made me read a book about her? Well, I was talking to my best friend from childhood, also a big bibliophile, and she was telling me about this really good review of Austen's works on YouTube. So I watched it and I thought it was pretty good, so my interest in Jane Austen was sort of rekindled. And then someone on Instagram published that they were talking about this book, The Jane Austen Society. So it looked intriguing and I looked it up, and even though I don't usually read books that have just been released, I prefer classics and historical fiction novels that were published decades ago, I decided to give The Jane Austen Society a try. I mean, I'd watched Austenland and I enjoyed it. I watched the Jane Austen book club and it was entertaining once, but what really made me want to read this book was that it was also set during World War II, and then I saw that it was being compared to the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, a book that I really loved, so I thought, this novel is for me. For the moment though, I believe that this is all I have to say about the Jane Austen Society. Thank you so much for watching my review of it. Please let me know if you enjoyed it or not, as well as what are your own thoughts regarding this book. In the description box below you can find the link to the Goodreads page for the novel. And well, I'm Caro Herrera, the Mental Traveler, and I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you're in the world. I'll be seeing you soon. Take care and goodbye!